Once, a student monk went to his master and said, "Master, I can't live in this temple anymore. I want to leave this place and go to a peaceful and quiet monastery." Then the master monk asked, "Why? What's wrong with this temple? Tell me what happened." Then the student monk said, "See, everyone in this temple are toxic to me. There are some monks who are too much into politics in this temple. And there are some other monks who always talks negative stuff about me and about others. And there are some others who spend their whole day doing nothing but just gossiping. I don't think that I can practice my spiritual life in this temple. Please let me go to a peaceful and a quiet monastery where there is no toxic people around me." Then the master monk said, "Okay, I will let you go, but before going, you have to do me a favor for the one last time." Then the student monk said, "Tell me, master, what should I do for you?" Then the master monk took a spoonful of water and gave it to the student monk and said, "You must carry this spoonful of water around the monastery and you should bring it to me. But here's the trick. You must never spill a single drop of water from it. If you can do it, I will let you go to a peaceful monastery." So thinking that the master will let him go to a peaceful monastery by completing this weird request, the student monk took the spoonful of water and carried it around the monastery, fully focused and without spilling a single drop from it. So after a few hours, the student monk came back to the master with a happy face and said, "Master, I did it. I carried this spoonful of water all around the monastery, even without spilling a drop from it. So now, let me go to a peaceful monastery." Then the master monk said, "Okay, my student, you are free to go. But before you go, just tell me one thing. While you were carrying the spoonful of water around the monastery, did you hear any of the monks talking about politics? Did you hear any of the monks gossiping about other people? Did you hear any of the monks talking negative stuff about you?" Then the student monk said, "Master, I was focused on the spoon and I didn't have any time to listen to all those noises." Then the master monk said, "See, my student, if you are fully focused on your goal and if you are fully focused on your purpose, you don't have time to listen to all those other negative noises around you. Remember, wherever you go in this world, you will meet negative people around you. But if you're fully focused on your goal and on your larger purpose, all the other negative people and all the other negative words that you hear are nothing but just noises." Ladies and gentlemen, it is all about what we focus in our life. The more we focus on other people's behaviors, other people's words, other people's lives, there will be many toxic people around us. But if we are focused on ourselves, our goals, our purpose, all those negative stuff will become nothing but just a noise. See, it is easy to criticize other people. It is easy to see the dark side and the negative side of people. But it takes a heart of bravery and kindness to see the bright side of people. We all have imperfections in our life. We all make mistakes. We all make bad choices. And all those faults, imperfections are the things that makes us who we are. So when you work with people or when you are on social media, you will come across with people that you don't like. You will come across with ideas that you don't agree with. Remember, in all those times, you have the power to choose whether to react with negativity or to respond to them with positivity. Ladies and gentlemen, it is all about what you choose to do and what you focus in your life. So, focus on yourself and choose to respond to them with positivity. Welcome to yet another Q&A video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the fear of failure and how to deal with it. Did you know that the majority of the people who fail in their life challenges fail because of this fear of failure? So we're going to find a solution and how to deal with it. First of all, we have to realize that failure is a part of life, right? It is with the life. It comes with the life. And fearing the failure, this fear that arises inside our mind, it's an emotion. So these are two different things. Let's talk about the failure. Failure, you cannot avoid it. It's a worldly condition. Our great teacher, Supreme Buddha, said there are 8 worldly conditions in this world. From time to time, you have to go through these 8 worldly conditions. So what are these 8 worldly conditions? Buddha explained: pleasure, pain, blame, praise, disrepute, fame, gain, loss. These things are the 8 worldly conditions, right? So these things change time to time. From time to time, these things comes to our life, and we have to go through these things. So you cannot avoid the failure. Sometimes you get what you want. Sometimes you don't get what you want. So we have to find a way to deal with it. One thing that you have to realize is, when you fear the failure more and more, there will be more chances for you to fail. That is a law in this nature. That is a law for our mind, right? The more you fear, the more you fail. Keep that in your mind, right? So that means when you fear too much, you're running out of your plans. You're not thinking about your plans, and you're just sticking to that emotion of fear, and you're not going to take the risks, and you're not going to take that next step. So fearing the failure, this fear is the thing that holds you back from the success. Realize it. So what we can do with this fear when it comes to our mind? Of course, we can use our fear to our success. How? So if you are afraid of failure, then you can be well prepared, right? Then you have to think, oh, I'm afraid of failing, so I must come up with a plan and I must work my plan. So in that way, you can use this emotion to your own success. And there's another thing. You have to learn how to keep your expectations moderate. Not too high, not too low, but in the middle way, in the moderate state. How do we keep it? Do not think of yourself that I'm going to be the perfect in this world. I'm going to be the best in this world. Of course you can be the best, but not for a long time. It is also impermanent. And also, don't think about yourself like, I'm not good enough, I cannot do it, I'm not going to make it. Don't think about yourself negatively. Instead, keep your expectations moderate. How? I will do my best. If you are facing an exam, all right, if you are fearing about it, you have to think, I will do my best. Right? I'm not going to be the best, but I can do my best. I can become the best version of myself, right? That is why I am trying for this. You have to think about that again and again. When you think about that, you're trying to give the best of yourself.
You're trying to come up with a better plan, and you are trying to work that plan. When you keep your expectations too high, you have to set and make some unrealistic plans, right, which are not going to work. When you keep your expectations very low, you're not going to come up with a plan actually, because you're thinking lowly about yourself, right? So keep your expectations in moderate way. Then you will feel less fear. And I must say, every one of us feel this fear. It's a common mental condition, right? And also, every one of us fail. It's also a common worldly condition. Do you think the Buddha didn't fail? Before he becomes the Buddha, when he was the Bodhisattva, he failed many times, right? He spent 6 years of time trying to find this Buddhahood, right? Trying to find this enlightenment. But finally he failed, right? He tried many things like self-mortification, these harsh meditations. But finally he realized that I cannot achieve this enlightenment through these hardships. Then he thought, now I must change my plan. I must change the way I am doing. That is what Buddha thought. But he did not give up his dream. He did not give up his goal. Instead, he changed the plan. So you can change your plan. You can change the way you are doing, right? But do not give up your dream. You will fail, you will fall, you will have to suffer in this life. That is the life, but do not give up the dream. Right? If you're a student, if you're having the life challenges, never give up. Change the way you're doing. It's okay, you can do that, right? So that is what you have to do. And the final thing that I have to say is, do not be afraid to fail. Because failure teaches us many things, many lessons. It teaches us what not to do. It teaches us how to be patient. It teaches us you're a human and you will fail. It teaches us how to be humble. There are many lessons that we can learn from failure. But when you win all the time, if there is the victory all the time in your life, you will never learn many things. Instead, it will feed your ego. So, keep it in your mind. Do not be afraid to fail, but be afraid to not to try. So keep these things in your mind and practice and be happy in your life.
Welcome everyone to another video. So today, let's talk about loneliness and how we can face this situation. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about two things. And the first one is the loneliness, and the second one is the solitude, which is more reframed version of being alone. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about loneliness. When we are around people, when we are living with people, and when we are in relationships with people, normally we feel happy. We feel that we are content, right? And we feel this joyfulness within ourselves. But when they are not around us, or when they leave us, sometimes when we have to depart from them, normally we feel depressed, sad, or lonely, or we feel like no one cares about us. So this is the feeling of loneliness. If we analyze this emotion of loneliness, we can find that we have become happy because of the people around us, because of their reaction, because of their way of behavior. That was the reason that we became happy. Simply it means that we have given the key of our own happiness to other people.
So when they leave our life, sometimes when they depart from ourselves, sometimes when they fade away from our life, what happens to us is we become unhappy, we become sad, we become depressed, and we feel like no one is caring for us. There is no one to help for me. That is what we are thinking. So how we can deal with this? Well, that is where we come to the topic of solitude. Supreme Buddha advised us, Supreme Buddha advised the monks to practice this practice of being solitude. So what do you mean by solitude? So first of all, let's compare the loneliness to the solitude. Then you can take some idea about that. In loneliness, when you're lonely, you're thinking for someone to come to your life and make you happy. That means you're depending on others. Your happiness depends on others. But in solitude, you try to find the happiness within yourself. When you find the happiness inside yourself, you don't want to depend on another person. You don't want to depend on second person. You can find your happiness within yourself. And that is what the practice of solitude gives us. So when you're being solitude, or simply when you're being alone, now there are the people talk about this like the loneliness and being alone is two different things, right? So when you're being alone or when you're being in solitude, you're happy. You're not finding the happiness from these outer sources. You find the happiness within yourself. So Buddha teaches us to look at this loneliness not as something to be sad, not as something negative. Buddha teaches us to look at this loneliness something that is beneficial for you, something that is positive. So how we can use this loneliness, or how we can reframe this loneliness to be positive? Well, if you think about whenever you are being alone, you have more time for yourself, right? You have a bigger freedom for yourself. You can think about yourself. You can reflect more about yourself, and you can practice meditations, or you can think about your health and do some practices about that. You can do some self-development techniques, so you can improve yourself. So when you use that time, when you use that loneliness for good things, then you become more positive about that. Then you will never feel these sad or depressing states. So let me tell you a little story how Buddha felt lonely at one time. Actually, this incident happened to the Buddha before he became enlightened. We call him the Bodhisattva. When he was Bodhisattva, he was practicing this self-mortification for 6 years. He gave lots of hardships to this body. He did some extreme meditations in the jungle. So there were 5 monks who were helping the Bodhisattva. So he practiced this self-mortification meditation for 6 years, and he mastered that. Finally, he came to the conclusion of that I cannot achieve this enlightenment by self-mortificating or by giving this extreme hardship to this body. So he decided to find this middle way. So what he did was, first of all, he took his bowl and he went to the village and he got some foods to eat. Because he thought that to do the meditations, I need to have this physical energy. But those 5 monks who were helping to Bodhisattva, who were expecting the enlightenment from the Bodhisattva through this self-mortification, was so confused because they saw that the Bodhisattva is having these foods. Then those 5 monks thought, like, now he's not going to achieve this enlightenment. The enlightenment can only be achieved by this self-mortification. So they never believed on the Bodhisattva. So what they did was,
they left the Bodhisattva. Now our Maha Bodhisattva was all alone in the middle of the jungle. There was no one to help him. There was no one to care about him. No one knew about him. He was all alone. But he didn't think about that loneliness as something depressed or something negative. So he thought, now I have more time for myself. I can do my meditations freely. There was no one to think about me. So I must use this time for my self-development. That is what Maha Bodhisattva thought. So that is the way that we also should think about this loneliness. If you are feeling lonely, if you are having some kind of a loneliness situations in your life, use that time, use that valuable time to create a better life for yourself, because you have more time. You can do meditations. You can stick into a daily routine of the self-development. You can do meditations. You can do workouts. You can walk for some time. And you can be with this nature, read a book, or learn something new, practice meditations, do exercises. These things can be done when you are all alone. So, rather than feeling depressed about the situations that you are in, why can't we become more happy about the time that we are spending alone, right? So practice this, okay? So if people comes to your life, let them come. If people walks away from your life, let them walk away. But you have to be by yourself. You have to think about yourself. That is what you have to think, and that is what you have to do in this valuable time. So I think you got some idea about the loneliness and being in the solitude. So practice the solitude and make your life more better. If there is one simple word that we all struggle to say, and that is no. N-O, no. Two simple letters, one simple word, but saying no can be the most hardest thing in life to do. Why we struggle to say no? The reason why we struggle to say no is because we have gotten used to say yes to many unimportant things in life. Okay? When we say yes to unimportant things in life, what happens to us? We miss the chance and we miss the time to say yes to the important things in life and to the things that really matters to us. Okay? And that is why we need to learn how to say no to unimportant things and how to say yes and how to be more focused on saying yes to the important things in life. Okay? So the reason why I'm doing this video is because a couple of days ago, I came across this word. When I was chanting, I came across this word in Karaniya Sutta. The Buddha says, Appakicho, do less. If you practice the Buddha's teachings, if you practice the spiritual path, or in any area of your life, you have to do less. Do not do more. Now, the society says the quite opposite thing to us. The society says that do more. The more you do, the more you achieve. Do many things as much as you can, then you will achieve. But turns out doing more will not help us to be more productive. Okay? To be more productive in what we are doing. To be more productive what really matters to in life. So that is why we have to master to say no to certain things in life. And really be focused on what really matters to us. So from this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips that will help you to say no to unimportant things in life and to say yes and to be more focused on what really matters to you. Before learning how to say no to unimportant things in life, we have to understand why we say yes to unimportant things in life. The reason why we say yes to unimportant things is because of fear most of the time. Sometimes it is because of the fear of missing out. Sometimes it is the fear of letting someone down. Sometimes it is the fear of the only one to say no. Okay? Sometimes it is the fear of making the wrong decision. So that is why we say yes to unimportant things in life. And sometimes we say yes not only to the people, but also for the things in life. Okay? For an example, let's say you're studying. While you're studying, you have the mobile phone beside you. Okay? All of a sudden, you see a notification pops up on your phone. Now, you know that you're studying and you know that you have to be really focused on that. Okay? But you pick up the phone and you check what it is. Sometimes it is not necessary for you, but you check it and you say yes to that distraction. Let's say sometimes you plan to learn or to meditate in an evening. All of a sudden, you get a call from your friend and say that they ask for you to come with them to go shopping, maybe go to a party or to go to a walk. Because of fear of putting that person down or letting that someone down or to say no, we say yes to them. Okay? So when you say yes to them, sometimes we miss the chance and we miss that valuable time to be focused, to be more focused on what really matters to us. Okay? What really helps us to achieve our larger purpose in life. And that is why we have to learn how to say no correctly. So here are the few steps that you can help you to achieve that. The first step to saying no to unimportant things in life is to build a good self-awareness. Okay? You have to have a good understanding what really matters to you and why you say yes to certain things and why you say no to certain things. When you're aware of that, then you can easily say yes to important things in life and no to unimportant things in life. So before saying yes to something, just ask from yourself this question, why? Why am I saying yes to this? Okay? Before saying yes to something or to a person, just figure out why you say yes to that person or why you say yes to that thing. Okay? Before you say no to certain things, you have to figure out why you are saying no to certain things in life. For an example, let's say you need to check your mobile phone. Okay, your mind says to check your mobile phone. Before doing that, you have to ask from yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Why should I do this? When you ask from yourself that question, you become more aware of yourself. You become more aware of what you're doing. The Buddha says, before you do something or before you say something, just ask from yourself that is it helpful for me? Is this thing that I'm going to do is helpful for me or helpful for others? Is it good for me? Is it good for others? When you ask from yourself that question, and if you come to the answer that, yes, this is really worthy of saying yes. This is really worthy of saying, this is really important to me, then do it. But if you come across the answer that, no, this doesn't really matters to me, okay, it is not important to my life, then by all means, do not do it because it steals your time, the valuable time in your life. So the first step of saying no, learning how to say no to unimportant things in life is to build a good self-awareness. The second step of learning to say no to unimportant things in life is to build a good self-discipline. And now this is the most hardest part because it takes a lot of courage and grit to say no. And you need to be more disciplined to say no to unimportant things in life. Because sometimes the things that we say no, we have to say no to unimportant things in life may be the most enjoyable things in life. Okay? Let's say like we all like to enjoy in life, but sometimes those things that makes us enjoyable will not help us to be more productive. Okay, for an example, let's say you are going to study and you're planning to study, you're planning to meditate, but well, sometimes your friends ask you to come and join to a party. Okay, now you like to go to a party, but you know that the most important thing in your life is the learning process. That is what helps you to achieve more success. The most important thing in life is to build a good spiritual, a strong spiritual base in your life. So then it is very difficult to say no to those things because we fancy in doing all those things. Okay, so that is where we need the self-discipline, to be disciplined and to say no. This is what really matters to me and I have to do it. Then you have to say no to those people politely. You can explain why you are saying no. Okay, I heard this one quote saying that learn to say no to people without explaining yourself. I would say learn to say no to people and explain why you're saying no to them. Then they can understand why you're saying no. Okay? So then they will respect your time and your values in your life. So that is why we have to learn to say no politely and correctly. The third step is to understand that your time is valuable. Time is the most valuable asset that we have in our hand. Okay? And our time on this earth is really limited. You don't have an infinite time on this earth. We have a finite time and we have to use that limited time very well. So I would suggest look at your time like you look at your money. Okay? So when you get money, you don't spend that money lavishly or to whichever the thing that you want. You don't put that money wherever you are. No, we become more serious and you become more serious about your money. Same like that. Think about your time as you think about your money. Okay? Because money can be earned again, but the time cannot be earned again. You cannot take back the time. It is limited. And that is why in this limited time, you have to do the best thing that you can do. Okay? Be more serious when it comes to time. Don't waste it. Okay? It is the most valuable asset that we have. If you value time, if you respect your time, then you can say no to unimportant things and then you can learn to say yes to what really matters in your life. Okay? So respect your time and also respect other people's time as well. And the next step is to ask this magic question. The magic question is it really necessary? Before you say something, before you do something, before you say yes to someone or something, ask, is it really necessary? Do I really have to do it? Okay? Sometimes because we say yes to unimportant things in life is because we don't know that we don't really need it. For an example, let's say you came back home after a tired day, okay? And you say yes to social media. And you scroll through and it steals maybe 1 or 2 hours of your valuable time. In that time, there is someone that is valuable that you can do. Maybe to talk with your kids, maybe talk with your parents, maybe talk with your children. Then you can be more engaging with them and do something valuable with them. Instead of hanging out in social media and wasting that valuable time, just we can do something valuable. Before doing that, we have to ask, is it really necessary? Do I really have to do it? Then you can decide what to say no and what to say yes. Okay? So keep that in your mind. And the final step is to figure out what is really important to you, what really matters to you. Now, the most of the time, the reason why we say yes to unimportant things in life is because we haven't figured out what really matters in life. Okay, what really matters to us. So that is why if you have a good understanding, what is the larger purpose of your life, what really matters to you, what is really valuable in your life, you can be more focused on that and say no to other things in life that really never helps you to achieve the larger purpose in your life. So I would suggest take a quiet time in your day to figure out what really matters to me today. What should I do, and what is the most important thing that I should do today to achieve the larger purpose of my life? In that way, you will have a good understanding what really matters in your life and the things that don't really matter in your life. And be more focused in doing those things. Sometimes it is more enjoyable doing unimportant things in life. But although it is enjoyable, although it is hard to say no to all those distractions, we have to say no to them, because those are the things that prevents us engaging and achieving the larger purpose in our life. So finally, these are the tips that you can practice to say no to unimportant things and to say no to distractions in your life and to be more focused on what really matters. So finally, saying no can be really hard. I know it is really hard, but in order to achieve a happy life and a calmer life and a more disciplined life, we have to say no, and we have to learn to say no to unimportant things in life. So practice these little tips and then you'll be happy in your life.
Welcome to another video. In today's video, let's talk about relationships. And I'm going to be sharing with you 6 principles taught by the Buddha on having a healthy and happy relationship. Well, maintaining a healthy relationship, maintaining a happy relationship or long-lasting relationship is a bit challenging. Why? Because we have different personalities. We are different from one to another, right? But we lose this ability to understand about this situation, this reality. What is the reality? The difference between each other. Sometimes we ask from the people, or we ask from our partners, why can't you think like me? Why can't you be like me? Why can't you act like me or behave like me? This is where we make many problems in relationships. But if we can realize the difference between one another, or if we can realize this reality, what is that? We are different from each other, then we can get the power of understanding. There's one important quality that we must practice in any kind of relationship, and that is the understanding. Right? Understand others' situations. Understand why they are acting like that, why they are behaving like that. So, our great teacher Supreme Buddha taught there are 6 principles to practice. These are the practices, actually. If you practice these 6 principles in any kind of relationship, your relationship will be much more happy and healthy. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get into these principles, and I'm going to explain one by one in turn. First of all, the Buddha said you need to practice these principles when that person, the person or our partner or our companion or the people who we are relating to, when that person with us or in front of us, and also in the times where that person is not with us. That means both privately and publicly we have to practice and maintain these principles in our life. And also, these principles was taught by the Buddha to monks actually, because as monks, we live as a community. Now in our monastery, we have more than 25 monks. So when you analyze their personalities, they all are different. They all have different ways of lifestyles. So when we are interacting, there may be some problems. There may be some crashes. But if you practice these qualities, if we practice these qualities, there will be less problems. There will be less disagreements. So that is why Buddha taught us these principles. So this was originally preached by the Buddha to the monks actually. And also you can apply these principles to your life also. So let's get into the first principle. Buddha said, you need to treat your spiritual companions, regarding to monks actually. Buddha said, you need to treat your companions with physical kindness, bodily kindness. What do you mean by bodily kindness? There are certain things that we can do from our body in order to show our kindness or show our compassion towards that person. It may not be big things like spending money on big things and buying big things to the person, but also there are many things that we can do. There are little things that we can do for that person to create happiness on that person's mind. And also we can give that, by doing these things, we can give that idea that we value your life, that I value your being with me. So Buddha said, do the acts of loving kindness from your body. Maybe like helping in his career, maybe like helping in his household activities. If you take an example, like in a husband and wife relationship, you can share the things that you are doing in the life. We can help each other. That is one way of showing love and kindness to that person. And also we can show in many ways our love and kindness to these people. When you act from your body with love and kindness, that creates the mutuality between people. So the first principle is to treat people with physical kindness. Then Buddha said, as the second principle, treat the companions with verbal kindness. You can speak nice and kind and heartwarming words to them to create the happiness and create the pleasure in their mind. Each and every one of us likes to listen to pleasant words, right? We all surrender in front of the kindness, kind words, kind actions. So the first and second thing is to treat them with physical kindness and also with verbal kindness. And as the third principle, Buddha said, this is the most important principle, and that is, treat your companions with mental kindness. This is the important one. Why is that? Because if you generate these kind thoughts towards the people around you, in your mind, your thoughts become your actions. Then your actions will be more kind. Your thoughts become your words, then your words will become more kind. So as the third principle, Buddha taught us, treat your companion with mental kindness. Okay? So when you treat your companion with mental kindness, that means you are spreading this rays and this power of kindness towards them when that person is in front of us, and also in the times where he or she is not with us. We have to do it in the same way. That is the third one. And also as the fourth principle, Buddha said, you have to share without reservation. For the monks, Buddha said, if you get any kind of food or any something good to your life, you have to share that thing with your spiritual companions. Now we monks, when we get some food, we always try to share with our monks. So you can adopt that to your life. Whatever the things that you get, maybe like you had something very delicious food when you're working in a long distance place. And when you come home, or when you come to your partner, or when you come to that person, you can say, hey, I had this food, I had this delicious food. I need you to have that. that means you're sharing it. When you share without reservation, it creates the peacefulness and it strengthens the relationships. So sharing is one of the most key and important ingredients in relationships. And as the fifth principle, Buddha said, you have to be virtuous. What do you mean by virtuous? Now, in Buddhism, as normal people, in Buddhism, we practice 5 precepts. Buddhist people practice 5 precepts. Abstaining from killing beings, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from telling lies, and abstaining from taking intoxicating drinks and drugs or alcohols. So these are the 5 precepts that lay people practice in Buddhism. So when you become more moral or virtuous, it creates the trust in people. Now there's in relationships, in normal relationships, in people, this third precept is very important. In third precept, it simply says, you are not cheating your partner. That means it creates the trust and loyalty between the partner and in the relationship. In any kind of relationship, trust is the foundation. Without trust, there is no use of a relationship. So when you become more virtuous, you will create the trust and loyalty in the relationship. And as the sixth and the final principle, Buddha taught us, you have to have a common view in any kind of relationship. That means, if you can, in a relationship, if both the people, or if everyone work for one dream, work to achieve one goal, that creates the peace in this relationship. Now, as monks, Buddha said you have to have one dream or one goal in your life. There's only one purpose of becoming a monk, and that is to end the sufferings of this long cycle of rebirth and to be enlightened. When all the monks get together and work for that dream, then that will be so much easy to live with them, right? When someone is deviating from that path, that creates the problem, right? So in relationships also, if every one of us can work for one dream or to achieve one goal, then that will be more easy and more happy. So these are the 6 principles that we must practice in any kind of relationship. You can apply these principles to any kind of relationships, whether it is husband and wife, maybe like girlfriend and boyfriend, whether it is like parents and children, whatever the relationship is, you can apply these principles and make it more healthy and happy. So practice these principles, add them to your life, and make your life a better one. So I'm going to end this video with a nice quote that I've read. It says, all relationships go through bad times, but the real relationships get through bad times. So practice the principles and make your life a better one. In today's video, let's talk about how to control our negative emotions and how to control our mind. Well, the nature of our mind is it always likes to wander in negative emotions and negative thoughts. Negative thoughts like anger, desire or lust, or then jealousy, maybe resentment. These are the negative thoughts that our mind likes to wander in. So how can we control it? Well, our great teacher Supreme Buddha introduced us a gradual training where you can practice this controlling of negative emotions or negative thoughts in your mind. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce them to you. So first and foremost, before getting into these steps, there is one thing that you have to practice, and there is one thing that you have to master, and that is
awareness. If you are not aware of what you are thinking, if you are not mindful about what you are thinking, then you cannot control it. So you have to totally understand and you have to totally be aware of what you are thinking. Okay? So whenever you become aware of what you are thinking, then you will have that power to control it. So here comes the first step. Buddha says, whenever you become aware of your mind is wandering in negative thoughts like anger or lustful thoughts or resentment or jealousy, the first thing is to shift your thought pattern to something wholesome. There are some wholesome thoughts in your mind which makes you peaceful. Maybe like thinking of something that you have done in the past, like maybe you helped someone. Whenever you think that thought, your mind becomes happy and peaceful. So what you're going to do is, whenever you become aware of your negative thoughts, we're going to shift our thought pattern to something that is wholesome, something that makes us peaceful. So that is the first thing that Buddha says. Shift your thoughts to wholesome thoughts. If that first step did not work out, then what you have to do, go for the next step. What is that? Buddha says, think about the disadvantages of thinking negative emotions, right? If you are constantly having angry thoughts, then you have to think, these thoughts are hurting myself and others. If I take actions according to these thoughts, it will hurt myself and the others. Remember, it may be a little thought of anger, but if it grow up, what will happen? It will be destructive. So what do you have to do? Think about the drawbacks or disadvantages of thinking these negative thoughts. Then, whenever you see these disadvantages, your mind will tend to stay away from these negative thoughts. Most of the time, we are not aware of these disadvantages. Okay? So what do you have to do? Think. If I keep on thinking these negative thoughts, it is not going to help me. It will disrupt my peacefulness. Right? That is the second step. Then as the third step, Buddha says, pay no mind, pay no attention. If the second step did not work out, go for the third step, to not to pay any attention to that thought. Right? See, whenever we give so much attention to something, maybe a thought, it grows again and again, it grows more, right? For an example, if you became angry with someone and if you keep thinking about him again and again and becoming angry, that anger will grow more and more. So what do you have to do? We have to let the thought be a thought without paying much attention, right? When you just stay away from giving attention, then it will fade away from your mind. It's something like this. Have you seen little babies, when they fall down, they start to cry, right? If the parent or the mother or father see that it is not a big deal of falling, if mother or father did not give any attention to that baby, what does he do? He just don't care about that. He will stop crying. Same thing goes with our mind. If we did not pay any attention to that thought, right? If we did not care about that thought and just let it go and let it pass away from our mind, then it will fade away. That is one way of doing that. If the third step did not work for you, then the Buddha says, go for the fourth step, to relax your thought process, right? Now remember, when you think negative thoughts, your mind becomes so much busy, so much rough and distracted. So, what you're going to do is, you're thinking, why am I thinking these distractive thoughts, these negative thoughts that are making me so much busy and making me distracted, right? So, what you're going to do is, you're relaxing your thought process to something very soft and subtle. Maybe like loving kindness, maybe like compassion, right? Maybe like gratefulness. When you think those thoughts, when you think more positive thoughts, your mind or your thought process becomes so much relaxed. And then, if the fourth step did not work for you, then it comes the final step. This is something that we have to do with a great care. I do not recommend for everyone to do this. This should be done with a great experience and a good practice, right? And that is to crush your thought with awareness, right? You have to be totally aware of your thinking pattern and have a good determination to your mind that I am not going to think these negative thoughts, right? But this should not be done by everyone, right? Some may be not good at this, right? If you keep on becoming aware and if you keep on forcing this mind, it will grow more and more these negative thoughts. So if all those 4 steps did not work for you, then you have to go for the final step, right? So it is much better to practice these 4 thoughts before doing the final one, okay? So practice these things. When you practice, you will feel and you will understand that your negative emotions are fading away little by little. Remember, this is not going to happen overnight. It will take a long time to do this, but you have to keep on practicing. Keep on doing it. Make it a habit, and then you will become a master of it. So practice this practice and make your mind a place where free from negative thoughts. Namo Buddhaya.